RSPCA, the British Veterinary Association, you'll find the Dogs Trust. None of those organisations, none of them support breed-specific legislation. None of them. What you also find is when you get you try and ask the people from the government to come forward and defend this law, to actually be accountable for what they've done, they won't even come forward and explain. And so what we need to do is for people to get genuinely angry about the fact that dogs such as Bruce, never done anything, is going to die. Society isn't better protected with him dead.
All right, so an email that's come in actually from Brenda and Paul Oakley in Haverhill. They say Bruce has to go free to a loving, happy, forever home. There is a new amendment that has been ignored by those in power in Northern Ireland that shows Bruce should never have been taken and should be out now. It is illegal imprisonment. Shame on the people keeping Bruce in these disgraceful conditions. We'd all be done for cruelty if we kept a dog in these conditions, and he shouldn't even be there. This is more than unfair. It's a disgrace and totally unjust. A dog is as good or as bad as its owner. And then they say we're all watching and waiting around the world, and this has turned into a kind of like around the world issue about this dog. And the dog's just sat there thinking, wondering, when Mum's going to come home.
Exactly. I can say this without a second's hesitation. If Northern Ireland does decide to effectively end this dog's life, if they go through with that won't go down quietly. There are thousands, tens of thousands of people who've been drawn to his plight, and we've had, last count, we'd had 493 people who directly emailed us about this dog from all over the world, and there has been people that have said, we didn't have Ireland, or Northern Ireland as the case is, down as a country that's sort of doing this. I mean, let's be honest, us Brits, we're really, really good at looking at other countries when they do things wrong, such as the Spanish with bullfighting, and wagging our finger and sort of shaking our head. And yet here we are, about to terminate the life of a dog that's never done anything. And it's, your emailer was right, that there has been a discovery that there is no legal reason why Bruce should be put to sleep. In England, they have something called the exemption register, which is not perfect, but it at least means that if a dog is assessed and considered not dangerous, he can go onto a register and he can live the rest of his life out. He has to wear a muzzle and all of that kind of stuff. Bruce has been offered a loving home in the Republic of Ireland, which is, we're talking a stone's throw away, and they're not letting him go, and because the Republic of Ireland doesn't have this law at all. So you have to get to the point where you're thinking, who is it that wants this dog to die, and what are the reasons? Is society going to be better off with him dead? And the answer to that, I would say, is quite patently no.
All right, well, let's see what's happening on the roads of the eastern counties. More from Ryan in just a moment. Mara is on the line from K9 Magazine. We're talking dogs and for the love of a dog. A few comments coming in, Ryan. Somebody says here, but you can have children without any training, so why should people have to have training to have a dog?
I think that's a fair comment. You can have children without training. I think the biggest difference with the dog is the dog is obviously a choice. He's a choice. I don't personally believe it's your human right to have a dog if you are ill-equipped to have one, because the knock-on effect to society is a negative one. And I think ultimately I would say it's as simple as this. If people believe we've got it right and things are okay, then we should carry on as we are. If people believe that it isn't right and that we have got things to learn, then we need to do something different. And that different thing, in my opinion, is very obvious. It's the education of dog owners. The question is quite simple. If British dog owners were more skilled at their dog ownership, would we be better off? My view is that yes, we would.
Surely, because many people think, oh, it'd be lovely to have a dog, and always wanted a dog when I was a child, and they have a dog and they don't realise what the responsibility, of it is. Stanley dog is now 14, and I think he's going a bit deaf actually, because sometimes he's well away snoring, and I'm going, come on Stanley, Stanley, come on Stanley, and I have to go and sort of gently go, come on Stan, we're going now, and he goes, oh right, okay, and he sits with my mum while I'm at work, or he'll come to the studio with me depending on the situation, but he doesn't like being without me, and I don't really like being without him, and that is sort of total dog love. He's the best man I've ever had in my life. Another note here that says, are there any specific things that dog owners can do to ensure that their dogs are brought up as well as possible?
That's a fantastic question, and it's the question that every one of us, myself included, always should ask is, what can we do better? And I would start, and I've done quite a number of talks on aggression, I would start with what I find is the biggest problem. People don't understand dogs as well as they think they do, and that's because the dog is the greatest imposter that we've ever known. And the reason that the dog is man's best friend and not any other animal, he's earned that position, is because he's so brilliant at making us think what he wants us to think. And what I mean by that is people tend to look at dogs and they treat them like humans, and they have a view that a dog thinks like a human, and it acts like a human, and it has a value system like a human, and it doesn't. And so classic examples could be a dog that is maybe being protective of its toy, will give off signals, because he can't help it, he's a dog, he'll give off signals to everyone around him that I'm being protective of this toy. This toy is my favourite thing in the whole world. And then what would happen is the next door neighbours come over and they've got children, and the children come in and the dog thinks, you're not getting my toy, that toy's mine, and he gives off a signal, he maybe raises his lip, he maybe waves his tail in the air. All of this is the dog's way of saying, I can't be any clearer, I've got a problem here, and nobody spots it, because as I say, we don't understand dogs well enough. Then all of a sudden the child goes to stroke the dog, and the dog goes, no, you're not going near my toy, and then all hell breaks loose. And then what you will hear is owners saying these immortal words. It came out of the blue, and it came without warning, and there was no signals. That's wrong. Dogs always give a signal. We often miss it. That's the problem. And so what dog owners should do is they should invest in learning about dogs. Not necessarily learning about dog training, learning about dogs. What makes them tick? What makes them do things that they do? What is things such as possession, guarding? All of these sort of things will give people what I call a light bulb moment, where they'll go, oh, I get it now. When he does X, it's because he's thinking Y, rather than thinking that the dog thinks like us. So dogs don't think like us, they think like dogs, and if we can't recognise that, we fall into problems. So the best thing people can do is from day one, go out, invest, even if it's just an hour a week, learning about dogs, and your dog ownership experience will be far better for it.
Interesting, Kate has called in and said a few months ago the police came round to her house and her Rottweiler was scared and bit a police officer.
Oh, God.
Oops. However, she said that the police took the view that the dog was scared and not dangerous or a risk to the public and did not pursue the matter.
Well, that's interesting. And I mean, that's the thing. The dog, he's only got one way. He's only got one mechanism, his mouth. That's all he's got. All he can do, if he feels threatened, is either shout at you or bite you. He's got nothing else. And so very often, when a dog is in a position where it's very, very scared, we should be able to recognise it. I can, because I'm a dog trainer, and because I've been bitten enough where I haven't recognised it to learn my lessons. Now, it is completely unfair and unacceptable to expect a child to be able to recognise canine body language, but the parents and the dog's owner, they should be able to recognise it, and what they have to do is be able to nip it in the bud really quickly, because what I've seen it so many times, a vicious cycle happens. Somebody gets a dog and it starts with a minor behavioural problem. Maybe it barks at people, and then they get embarrassed by it, and so what they do is they put the dog in the back room when anybody comes, and then somebody else will come and the dog that could